Good morning, welcome back. If you're joining us, this is Daybreak on Citizen Television. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Let's begin with a look at the front pages of the publications before we take a look at the other stories that we'll be covering here on the broadcast. With me in the studio is the lawmaker representing Elders constituency, Adan Kainan. Thank you for your time. Vihiga County Senator Godfrey Osotsi is with us in studio also. Good morning and thank you for your time. And Senator John Nyutu from the county of Murang'a is with us also in studio this morning. Unfortunately, Dr. James Nyikal has sent in his apology and wouldn't make for the show as earlier posted on our pages. Let's begin with the front page of the Standard newspaper, and says the flying President William Ruto, according to the Standard, has a penchant for flying. So great is his love for travel that it appears he cannot pass up any opportunity. So far he has been abroad 38 times, even as back at home, little seems to be moving, from the university funding crisis to the high cost of living, which was an issue also that was deliberated upon by the National Dialogue Committee, which ended its sittings at the Bomas of Kenya. The paper says the countries so far visited include Belgium, China, Comoros, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Egypt, Eritrea, Germany, Israel, Mozambique, the Netherlands, Rwanda, Senegal, Saudi Arabia, the latest, South Africa, South Korea, Switzerland, Zambia, Burundi, France, and the United Kingdom twice, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, and the United States 3 times since he came to office on the 13th of September last year when he took over from his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. All right, let's begin on that note, and first I come to you, Honorable Adan Kainan. What do you make of this? Does it come with the expected accompaniments of foreign direct investments and the prospects of economic growth and investors coming into the country to help spur economic growth?
Good morning, viewers. Thank you so much. I think first, the President is the chief diplomat of the Republic of Kenya. He's the head of state. He's the head of government. To that extent, whatever he does is done for the best interest of the people of Kenya. Mm-hmm. The emphasis right now in our governance structure is economic diplomacy. We look at our pillars of diplomatic engagement. Economic diplomacy is the core. Therefore, in all these visits, the underlying issue is economic gains. And I believe I've not done any quantification of what each of the trips actually has contributed to our national well-being. Yeah. But I think taken into account collectively, because when a president visits another country as the chief diplomat, as the head of state, as the head of government, there are certain underlying issues that come in the form of direct engagement. And this direct engagement actually contribute either the harnessing of foreign direct investments, better diplomatic understanding. And remember, the world has become a global village, and Kenya is a responsible member of the international community. So each of these trips, I'm sure, if we were to quantify and magnify, you'll realize that we have gained more than what this sensational headline actually is alluded to. The sensational headline is this person is out and about, and no, that is not true. What is true is, have we quantified? If today the Standard will have given an analysis of the benefits of each of these trips, maybe we'll have listened to this. Mm-hmm. But this is just a clear demonstration from Kenya. The president has traveled out of this. I think this is sensational. I want to challenge the editorial of this particular paper to give us their misgivings about these particular trips. Because for example, the president was recently in China. I'm sure we have gained a lot out of that visit. Recently, he was in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a major international, economic hub, not only in the Middle East, but the whole world. China is the same. So I think we need to look at this critically so that once and for all, we realize that there are issues that we can politicize. But if we politicize everything, remember right now they're dealing with Ruto, the president, not Ruto, the candidate that they have impassioned. Ruto now is the president of the Republic. That is the reality that one must accept. Even the Standard must accept that Ruto now is the president and the head of government of the Republic of Kenya. To that extent, he will be traveling. How is he going to do his job?
All right. Senator Osotsi, what do you make of this from the opposition's lenses? And are there, in your view, commensurate advantages that will come with regards to economic growth, foreign direct investments, the prospects of job creation, and spurring our exports capacity as a country?
Good morning, everyone. When a president travels, he's not an ordinary traveler like me and you and Mheshimiwa here. He travels with a large team of people. There's a lot of logistics involved, and hence it is expensive when a president travels. And I think the standard is right to flag out this matter because, Uhuru traveled to 53 countries in 10 years. Ruto has traveled to 38 countries in just a year. And you know that the other day, the control of budget raised a red flag on expenditures on travel. Mm-hmm. And you saw the head of public service releasing a circular, basically coming up with austerity measures on traveling, and so that to cut down the expenditure on traveling. So it is quite contradictory that whereas the head of public service has cut down traveling for public servants, mm-hmm. the head of the country is continuing to travel. And I want to say that maybe a few of these travels are yielding fruits, as they say. But he doesn't need to travel. He has a foreign minister who can be traveling to some of these things. He has a trade minister who can be traveling to these countries. So really, he doesn't need to travel all the time.
Did you then mean at all, not traveling out of the country?
No, he can travel, but only on very critical issues. But most of the issues, I think he needs to let the CS responsible for foreign affairs or CS responsible for trade, on matters of trade, to travel. Mm-hmm. Because at this rate, considering that the country has economic challenges, cost of living is going up, inflation, the dollar has now hit 150 mark. I think it's very insensitive for a leader who is leading a country that has economic challenges to travel. You remember, I remember very well when the President Obasanjo, when he took over as the President of Nigeria, at the time when the economy was doing very well, he suspended all travels. And within a year, the country started performing well economically. So I think he needs to learn from countries which have done it before and be sensitive to Kenyans who are suffering and reduce unnecessary travel. Some of those travels can be done by other line ministers in his government, not himself. So really, for example, the recent travel to Saudi Arabia, really, I looked at it and I thought that that would be done by the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi. And when you talk about economic benefits that have come our way, some of these deals they have gone to make are not yielding results. For example, you remember the deal between Kenya and Saudi Arabia on government to government to import fuel on loan. It has become something else. It has not yielded any fruits because it was supposed to help us to ease the pressure on the dollar. It was supposed to help us to reduce the cost of fuel. But things have gone up. So really, we want to see tangible results. And those tangible results will not just be about talking about it. We want to see the effect on the cost of living. We want to see the effect on the dollar. We want to see the effect on the inflation. And really, it must be tangible.
And when you talk about the comparison between President Ruto and his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, a report by the Control of Budget indicated that the amount spent on travels during Kenyatta's first term ballooned by over 6 billion Kenya shillings between the financial years 2013-14 and 2016-17. Still, there was the question of over expenditure here by the executive, even during Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure. I mean, where is the balance of proportion here in laying the blame on President Ruto, according to his submission, as him traveling out of the country and rather dedicating these responsibilities and duties to his foreign minister and also the Minister for Trade?
You know, Uhuru also traveled, but because we compared Uhuru to Mwai Kibaki, who rarely traveled. And that's why the figure was 6 billion. But now we are comparing Ruto and Uhuru. And when you compare the two, you realize that Ruto has made 38 trips in this period he's been president, just a year. And Uhuru made 53 trips, traveled to 53 countries. And that tells you that maybe at the end of his 5 years, the number of trips will be 5 times more. So he's going to have traveled about 200 countries.
Okay. So you don't see benefit. Well, for example, don't you see any benefit when the president met heads of tech heads in San Francisco in the United States before addressing the UN General Assembly in September? Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said that the Americans are willing to buy our coffee to address some of the coffee crisis, partly affecting farmers. Don't you see any benefit that accompany these visits, for example?
The benefits are only realizable when you see there is a bilateral agreement. It's not just about talking. Okay. You can have meetings with whoever, but the outcome of those meetings should be bilateral agreements that are saying one or two things.
Thank you.
It cannot just be that I met so-and-so and therefore this is happening. We want to see what are the bilateral agreement.
Okay.
In fact, the question we should be asking, in all these travels that he has made, how many bilateral agreements has he signed?
Okay. Well, that is subject to the public knowing, and the Kenyan people have the right to information. Therefore, I'm sure those will be made public. Senator Nyuto, I come to you. Yeah. I mean, the president is the senior most employee in the country, 001, diplomat number 1, and he speaks for the Kenyan people. I mean, when he makes all these trips out of the country, 38 so far in just over a year since coming to office, do you see realizable benefits that accompany these visits to all parts of the world that he has made, Asia, Europe, the United States of America, and Africa?
Thank you very much. Ayub, I think just like the Honorable Keenan said, the President will, of course, wants to improve the economic situation of the country. And I think the President does not just travel. He does not just, go touring, seeing places for adventure. And it is, of course, it is always reported whom he has met, and it's about, like you started by saying, it's about looking for foreign direct investments. But having said that, I think I have listened to my colleague, Senator Sotse, say that some of the things that the President goes to do can be done by the foreign ministers, by the foreign minister or ambassadors. But then, Ayub, I think we have to look at we have to be realistic. We have to look at the magnitude of the things that the President goes to do. If he's going to meet maybe the leader of a foreign country, or maybe, I mean, you cannot, for example, equate the kind of negotiation that the President can make with a foreign country or with donors to what a foreign minister can do. And I think we just have to be realistic. When we talk about the cost that the President incurs, the country incurs in transporting the President to those countries, to outside the country, I mean, we must be, again, realistic. We should not be like somebody who complains that a farmer is spending too much on inputs. I mean, we should be like, how much do we get out of the investment that we make? Because even these costs, foreign travel costs, for me are, like an investment. We need to, I mean, he needs to travel to talk to people, to get investors, to get markets like the coffee market that you are talking about. The other thing may be that...
But Senator, before you move to the next point, I'll give you the time to deliberate on that.
Yes.
Isn't it also not fair that the executive should focus on cutting down on the number of members who are part of the president's entourage. For example, during the climate conference that we had, COP27, which happened in the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh, we had the highest representatives of delegation from the African continent, #1, and the 3rd in the world. Yet the president was there. To be fair, there is no problem whatsoever for the president to travel. He's diplomat #1. But is it not also fair that we cut down on the number of people who travel? And this coming against the backdrop of a statement made on the 1st of August at State House, when the heads of ministries and departments signed the agreement to serve the Kenyan people, that Gachagua admitted we have some ministers who change and government officials do change their clothes at airports. I mean, to just cut down on expenditure, is it not prudent that we bring down the number and cut down on our budget so that we can cater for the needs of the Kenyan people?
Thank you, Ayub. I think if there is any person accompanying the president that doesn't have to accompany them, then I think it's only fair that such people do not travel. But Senator Ososi will tell you, Mheshimiwa Adan Kinani will tell you, that even as members of parliament, when we travel, when we do our committee meetings, we also have very many people that serve us, because you need technical people. The president needs to travel with people, who will assist him with the technical advice. I don't think there is any joyrider that accompanies the president. But if there is evidence that there are people who just accompany the president for the sake of it, then of course, as a country that is bleeding economically, I think we should do away with such people. But the president has to travel with people, just like we do as members of parliament, because we need people to assist us in whatever we are doing.
Yes. Let's finish this point. I'll come to you.
When we talk about these 38 trips, and I think I want to join Mheshimiwa Adan Kinan by saying that this is sensational. Senator Ososi is saying that going by this, then the president may make about 200 trips. Remember, the president is doing like a foundation for his leadership. So it doesn't mean that he'll travel 38 times every year. He's only doing this because he's trying to do what we call a setup. And this is something that happens even in production. I mean, there's that time that you spend in setting up. And I think that is why these trips have been there. You compare Uhuru to President Ruto. I think Uhuru also traveled a lot. Immediately he became president. In fact, if you can remember, people are making fun that news that time was that Uhuru is in the country. You know, because the thing is, especially on social media, people are saying that Uhuru is always out of the country. So when he comes back to the country, it's news that Uhuru is in the country. So I think let's be fair. Let's give this president an opportunity to do his setup.
Thank you.
And then maybe we can look at this.
Thank you. The outcome, of course, is what we will weigh.
The outcome, and then we see if he makes another 38 trips. Then I think you can make that.
Yeah, of course, fair enough. And to the president and to you as well. Yes, Honorable Kenan, briefly finish up on this before.
I think on this particular issue, some of the teething problems the new administration faced have been identified and addressed through different circulars by the head of the public service, by pronouncement by none other than the president himself. So to that extent, the initial teething problems of the new administration, which are understandable, I think have been addressed. Secondly, I think you need to understand the person of Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto. Each has his own traits. Within a very short time, President Ruto has emerged as a Pan-Africanist. I read an article recently in the Newsweek, and there's no comparison at all. Each one of them had his own, trait, personality trait, has identified issues, of course using the basic constitutional framework in our governance structure. So I think we should be very proud that our president is one of the highly educated presidents actually not only in the African continent but in the world. He has emerged as a pro-business president out of his international excursions. You see, you need to understand the way international engagements works. Once a bilateral contact is handled at the level of head of government or head of state, decision making is fast-tracked, decision making is enhanced, and even the outcome is more feasible. So like when you have an engagement between president and president, between head of state and this, then having an engagement between a foreign minister and this, that invokes the issue of memorandum of understanding. That is the first stage. The second, actualization of the third stage is implementation. We need to understand in our multilateral and bilateral engagement, once a particular program and engagement between different states is at the level of the head of government, certainly you can be assured that the benefits are more. Then to Kenya, irresponsible member. I think our petty politics is trying to blind everybody that, no, you must invest in order to get returns, proper returns. So our key foreign policy engagement is the economic diplomacy. Of course, there has to be efficient management of our mega resources. And that's why even under these extreme economic difficulties, our global rating index has increased. Our investment positioning has also increased. I had an opportunity to listen to the governor of Central Bank just 2 days ago on why certain things actually were happening. And I wish some of this information actually was in the public domain, because we will have understood better. We have sat on certain things simply because we denied the public the right to critical information. What this government is doing right now, you see so many things, is they have allowed access to information. That's a constitutional requirement. But I think what I will ask my friend and other people, who still are mesmerized with the idea of seeing a president that they do not elect. He also didn't elect William Ruto. But the reality is, he is the president of the Republic of Kenya. That reality must dawn on this. So I think the bit that must come to the fore is foreign policy is a very complex, security-oriented portfolio. How it is handled, this sensational headline is not serving the interest of even the paper itself. So I think what I want to urge is, let's be responsive. Let's be civil in our public discourses. Let's appreciate that we have a country to protect, regardless of our political affiliation. And ultimately, the president and his government will be judged by
the end of 5 years.
By the end of 5 years. So give them time. Let them do it. You can't force them to behave or do things in the way that you will have done things. He is implementing his own party manifesto. That party manifesto is completely different from the Azimio manifesto. So allow them to do things in the way they understand, as long as it benefits the people of Kenya.
Yes, Honorable. As we finish.
You know, we must back up the things we say with the data. I don't know where Adan Kenine got the idea that Ruto is doing well in the diplomatic front. I don't think they are doing well. In fact, their foreign policy is contradictory, it's confusing.
In what aspect?
You remember when he addressed one of the meetings, he called for de-dollarization of the world. But when he came to Kenya, he implemented the policies of IMF and World Bank, because World Bank wanted increased taxation. And that's what he has done. Number two, if you look at the countries that are performing well diplomatically in Africa, the leading country is South Africa. South Africa is doing very well. You know, it is one of the key countries in the BRICS, that grouping that includes
Russia, Brazil, India, China.
India, China, and South Africa. But the president of South Africa has only made 75 trips in 5 years. The rest of the global engagement are done by the foreign minister. And when Senator Muranga says that the president has to be there physically so that things are done, I think that is not correct. We have seen foreign ministers visiting countries and presenting communication by the president, and things are done. The Secretary of State, the American Secretary of State, is always traveling and representing President Biden. So I think what we are saying, those trips could be justified, but it is not necessary that he travels. He can send some of his ministers to travel, or more so, we can use our ambassadors in those countries. That is why we have ambassadors in most of those countries, and the new administration has increased the number of embassies. I think what is coming out is that most of these trips are deal-making trips. not necessarily for the benefit of Kenyans.
Okay.
I think it is totally wrong to cast aspersion. Okay. It is totally wrong. I think what the Honorable Otsotsi is doing is to demean the institution of the presidency. When he says he's to cut deals, I think that's a very scandalous statement, which unless he has evidence to show that anything that a person I don't like does, it must be laden with that. I think that.
But Honorable Otsotsi, what happens in situations or instances where the president is officially invited by the government of another country?
That is justifiable because things have been arranged before. Bilateral agreements have been designed, discussed upfront, and the results are clearly defined. That is important. But what I'm trying to say is that some of the trips that I've seen, when you look at them critically, they can be done by the ministers, the relevant ministers. They can be done by ambassadors.
Okay.
So I think the key thing here is that we must realize that the economy is not doing very well. And if the president has directed the head of public service to issue a circular that
on austerity,
for austerity measures,
thank you,
I think he should lead by example.
Okay.
By also reducing his travel.
Thank you. When we get back from the break, Senators and Honorable and Kenan will focus on the Jubilee Party wars. A member of that party is here with us, elected on that party in the August last year, 2022 elections, and he represents Elders constituency. And take a look at the communication yesterday issued by the House Speaker, Moses Masika Wetangula. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. And that discussion will be on and up here on the broadcast after the break. Stay tuned.